Well, number one. So I just arrived at well 25 and stunning, absolutely stunning. I a little bit wish that I continued on last night, just took some photos at 26 and moved on, because the massive wet season that we've had this year has filled up all the clay pans. And I come over at June and I just saw water as far as the eye could see. Really exciting for me. I stopped the car in the middle of the sand dunes and put the drone up and started filming straight away. I couldn't wait. So got over the hill and there were some people packing up camp at 25, and said g'day to them while I was filming the clay pans. So you actually have to take a diversion track all the way around the clay pans. Normally you would drive straight through. I think this is a diversion track here. Normally you would drive straight through the clay pans, like right down the middle of them. But there's so much water in there, if you do that, the car would be staying there, basically. So I don't think this happens all that often. I'm going to chat to Vic Widman when I'm finished on this trip. Vic and Wayne have done 20 canning stock routes each, something like that, I think. And so they'd know how often this happens. I believe it's pretty rare. It's not even registered on the map as a lake. It's registered as you know, clay pans. So, but at the moment they're all lakes. There's water everywhere, and it's really exciting. beautiful spot. Not a lot of bird life, strangely, to have that much water, but perhaps it's because it's quite shallow as well. And there's going to be no fish or anything like that in there, I wouldn't imagine. But yeah, really beautiful spot. Great shady trees if you wanted to camp. 25, 26 I imagine was the more popular of the two camping spots, but maybe 25 is, with those big shady trees and water in the desert. Absolute lifeblood of the place. Can't do anything without it. It's amazing how much survives out here, really, with how little water these deserts get. And you can see the plants and trees and shrubs, they've all evolved to not just capture water when it rains, but capture water from the air as well, with dew, morning dew, and the massive changes in temperatures. It's the exact same way the solar still works, in that you know, those huge changes in temperature allow the moisture to condensate out of the air, and then it's able to be captured on surfaces, and we use a plastic sheet to capture that water. The plants and shrubs around here use lots of fine leaves. You won't find any broadleaf plants out this way. It's all fine leaf plants. All the shrubs have and grasses and whatnot, very fine, to capture as much water as possible from the air. Well, these aerials just haven't cut it on this trip. I broke one on the Kimberley trip, and now I've broken another one on the CSR trip. They're just not made like they used to be. Or I've had them for a few years now. Maybe they just had enough punishment. Too many low trees. Just come past a tree then, and yeah, it was one tree too many, I think, for it. Even though it's a whip with a great big spring and it's quite flexible, it is sadly had its last day. So I've just left well 24 on my way to well 23, and for some reason someone's graded this section of track. I'm not even sure why you would do that, but it's quite nice. Into traditional sort of hilly country now, with Pilbara red iron rock hills all around us, and starting to get some big white gums. Back at 24, it's a beautiful oasis through there. The water is crystal clear, and nice little stream and creek with water in it too. So, so it's been a very good wet season. Obviously, I can't imagine the creek having water in it all that often. just had a really special encounter. Super pumped. I wasn't allowed to, I couldn't get permission to film it, I'm afraid, but I'll tell you a little bit about it. I just got to meet the elders, both the female elders and the male elders of the Matu tribe. They were out on a clay pan doing tribal business, and also checking permits, which I think is fantastic, because there's probably a lot of people that come through that don't get those permits, and it's great to see people checking. Had a great chat to those people. They're out there conducting traditional business, and I'm not allowed to talk about what that traditional business was, because male or female Aboriginal people could be watching this, and they're not meant to know what each other is doing, which is perfectly fine. So I can't tell you a huge amount about what was just going on, but I can tell you that I was hugely honoured to be there and witness just for a very short time, witness the traditional practices that are still going on to this day. So I was only allowed to film as I was leaving, because the ceremony that they had been conducting was over. But incredibly honoured, really happy to have come across this group of people. They were with 7 vehicles. They've come, they're camping overnight between 23 and 24, and conducting tribal business in the area for the foreseeable future. Real pleasure to meet the Matu elders, and pumped, really pumped. I wish I could show you more. I did ask, but for cultural reasons, which are perfectly understandable, they didn't want any of that filmed. So, but really happy that I got to be present there at the time. I'm going to continue on. Well 23 is just in front of me. It's not far away at all. I am only 500 meters or so away, so I will check out what's there and then continue on. So just past well 23, and I finally find the camel that I've been chasing for days. I've been seeing camel tracks heading in my direction almost since Wiluna, you know, at least since well 46. So for days and days now I've been seeing this camel. Sure enough, here he is. The silly bugger ran down the middle of the road for a couple of minutes before finally banking off and getting out of the way, but the poor bloke, he doesn't look like he's in all that good a shape. He looked a bit old and scraggly, and he did look like he'd had a drink for a while, which is strange considering how much water's around. So I'd say that one there's getting a bit old, and I don't know, old age is catching up with him pretty fast perhaps. So I'm getting pretty excited. I'm approaching the lookout for Lake Disappointment, and all the way there is water in all the salt lakes leading up to it. In fact, there's so much water in them, there's been diversions made around the salt lakes where normally the CSR would travel straight through the middle of it. I've just finished doing quite a large diversion just then of about 5 kilometers to get around the worst of the Salt Lake country and to reconnect with the Canning stock route. I'm hopeful that that means Lake Disappointment has water in it. From what I'm told, you can count on one hand the amount of times Lake Disappointment's had water on it in the last 100 years, hence the name. So seeing all the salt lakes leading up to it with a ton of water in it is exciting. I really hope Lake Disappointment is full. We've had a bucket load of rain, the most amount of rain we've had in 40 years through this area. So I'm really looking forward to getting there now. I'd be pumped if there's water. Oh, the other thing I was told about, I was passing some travellers not long ago, and they let me know that Savoury Creek is 5 meters wide. So Savoury Creeks are normally fairly insignificant obstacle, a bit of a trickle, you know, maybe a metre wide at the average, and it's one of the saltiest pieces of water you could ever drive your car through. So you really need to take it easy. You know, you see these photos of people splashing their car, hitting it pretty hard and getting salt water all over them. Well, that's, you know, 3 or 4 times saltier than the ocean. So yeah, if you hate your car, knock yourself out. But yeah, 5 meters, that'll be interesting. There was a creek crossing back there where I'm pretty confident there was never a creek crossing. Well, except for when you get rain like this. I was tempted to go across it, but there was, I grabbed a stick and I was poking in there to see how firm it was. It was reasonably firm, but then I realised there was nearly a foot deep wheel ruts in that thing, so it's actually a lot softer than it looks. So I decided to take the diversion that I've just finished doing. Yeah, pumped, really excited. I can't wait to get to the lookout now. I'll probably be sending the drone up, I'll definitely be sending the drone up. Who am I kidding? Someone doing donuts in a salt lake, absolutely crazy. Yeah, I'll be sending the drone up so you can have a good look around at how big Lake Disappointment is, and hopefully how big and how full Lake Disappointment is. We'll see. Maybe I'll be disappointed. You never know. I had to say that. You got to do it. It's got to be done. Absolute carnage. I just crossed a shortcut going across the Salt Lake, just the very edge of it rather than going all the way around, and there's deep holes on either side of the track. And then after you look at it for a little minute, you realise that's because people have tried to go around something. They've gone off the track. Maybe there was a little puddle of water on there or something. They've gone off the track, and some of those craters are nearly 400 mil deep, like unbelievably deep. They chock-a-block full of water, and it looks like if you're going to cross there, and if you go off the track by even just an inch, you are in a world of trouble. And I'm really glad that I wasn't one of them, because those trenches look like it would have been hell to get a vehicle out of there. Absolute hell. No max tracks, no amount of pulling or winching looks like it saved them. It looked like they dragged one wheel on the side of the road for a good 200-300 meters until they were able to get that thing back on the track and out of there. And the amount of damage that looks like it would have done, well, the amount of damage it did to the track let alone to how much damage it would have done to the car. I can't even imagine it. The car would have been on an angle like this, and that looked recent. So yeah, I don't know, maybe the lake had a small film of water over the top of it, and so someone didn't realise, or yeah, that would have been a nightmare. Lucky it wasn't me. If Jace or Simon were here, I'd say don't play on the salt lakes. So I'm taking a quick walk out onto Lake Disappointment. It's already pretty soft underfoot here. Whoa, and slippery. You can see why you get into trouble fairly quick. Oh, there's a big hole over there someone's dug. That looked close. So behind me there is Savoury Creek, and normally it's just a trickle, and as you can see she's nearly 10 meters wide at this point. Fucking absolutely beautiful spot coming here. As you can see, I'm trying to keep the big cruiser as far away from this as I can, because there is nothing to winch off of out here. You'd be digging holes. So that looks like the marks of a car that was down on its belly at some stage, and they've actually had to dig that out. Looking at that, it's got quite square edges. It doesn't look like it's come far. You can see just there's a kick up the top there, so they're on the hard stuff, and then they thought, oh yeah, I can drive out onto that salt lake, and bang, down to the friggin' axle. And this is another one. Someone playing silly buggers, and they've actually come from this direction, and this is recent, last few days. So they've shot down through here, thinking, oh yeah, it's not too bad, and then boom. Actually, I'll tell a lie. I think it's coming from the other direction. They've come from that direction there. Looking at the kickback and spray. Deep, deep ruts. Getting into trouble. They've booted it. Absolutely booted it to try and get out of that. And then they finally managed to up there, luckily. I wonder how many people get stuck on this thing every year. Can even see, I don't know if you'll be able to pick that up, even the camels come out here. Some camel tracks, I've seen quite a few of them all over the Salt Lake so far. Here we go, here's some more camel tracks just through here. Looks like there's at least 2 of them. So, let me turn that around. That, never fun putting your car through salt water, let alone stuff that's 5, maybe even 10 times saltier than the ocean. How salty can you get off a Salt Lake? Bloody hell. It would be salt saturated, that's for sure. But it's got to be done. Got a bit of spare water there, and I'm coming up to Durban Springs. So I'll actually give the underneath a little bit of a bath, a light bath. So that'll look after the gear a little bit. But beautiful spot. The birds seem to be going right up to the water, so I don't know, maybe they've adapted so they can get something from it. You'd think there'd be no harsher water on the planet. Even the camels, I suppose, the camels have come up to it. You can see a bunch of scratchings from camels just down here. Anyway, let's have a look at this. That is Savoury Creek at the moment. For those that have been out here before, would probably know that Savoury Creek is not normally that wide. Well, Durban Springs didn't turn out to be as wide as I was told it was, and certainly not as deep. So still not disappointed. Pretty good tradition amongst four-wheel drivers to talk up some of the obstacles they've crossed, so I don't know why I was surprised. When I did get to that sort of mouth of Savoury Creek and saw how wide it was there, I was pretty convinced that it was going to be quite the obstacle, but no, she was about 100 mil deep and only a couple of metres wide, but yeah, there's a fair chance it's gone down a bit since that bloke went through, probably, well, nearly a week ago now. But all good, got some nice shots, Lake Disappointment's amazing, and looking forward to probably the next major stop, I suppose, will be Durban Springs, where I'm probably going to spend a day, maybe 2, see how I feel, and just relax for a bit. Durban Springs, she's a true oasis in the desert. So my love of night driving goes way back.